I don't care about what their past is. And they said the wrong word once. What do they think about trans people? Congresswoman Greene, good to have you on the Young Turks.
Hi, thanks for having me tonight.
No problem. So normally we disagree a lot, and you've seen some of that. But tonight we're going to talk about something that's that we might have in common, and see if we can maybe prevent a war. So the two sides coming together here on what I hope is a good mission.
I don't know. Like sometimes I wish I could just like get stabbed in the arm rather than have sinus congestion, because it's in your head. But anyway, how are you doing?
I can't complain too much. I have there's been things on my mind, John. If I could take a minute to get it off my mind. I saw you respond to something that went down on this network. I saw you respond to a lady that asked you to be kind to her. Am I right?
Yes, I did.
While I enjoyed your answer, I feel like there needs to be at least more of a clarification as to why. You gave a great answer. I love it.
Okay.
But when someone comes on a network to sanitize themselves and sanitize their character and their brand and who they are, because it's obvious that they're looking for a Senate run to enhance their power and have more reach within the government, maybe make even a little bit more money. I think it's important to point out of who these people always were, and because if they have something that they finally say that makes some sense, like maybe we shouldn't be continuing to assault and fight all these foreign wars and killing innocent people on an indiscriminate levels, like we're doing in Gaza. So if you're against these types of things, I think it's important to point out that you should stop doing the things that you've done before. Maybe stop supporting the people that are doing the things that you're all about. Because if we begin to allow people to then make themselves be normalized within our society, the things that are absolutely abnormal about them become normalized too. So if we accept someone saying, I'm against foreign wars too, and then we accept that they're still against women's rights, they're still white nationalists, that they still say that we should have a white nationalist country, that becomes normalized.
It absolutely becomes normalized. This is the huge problem with this dance that Cenk Uygur likes to do, where he's like saying, hey, let's forget about the white supremacy and the transphobia and all the toxicity. We're just gonna partner up with them for this one way that they service my needs. But being transactional like that, you cannot do that when everything else that they are about is antithetical to like a normal, healthy, functioning society. That is like allowing Nazis to backdoor into normalization and popularity and acceptance simply because they agree with you on one issue, okay? That gives every Nazi the right to get normalized. All they have to do is pick some remote issue they agree with you, and then you have to ignore all their other toxic shit. Dude, it's bullshit. We shouldn't be fucking doing it. And I know Cenk said, who cares if Tucker is anti-Semitic? He said, who cares if they're transphobic? He actually said that. And it's like, that's bullshit. You cannot normalize outright bigotry like that simply because you agree on some satellite fucking issue, okay? We're not doing that. Fuck you, Cenk. I'll talk to you about it. You want to have a debate? Let's fucking debate it, okay? Your head might pop off, right? But we'll fucking debate it.
They're still against women's rights. They're still white nationalists. That they still say that we should have a white nationalist country. That becomes normalized, am I right? If someone who still says, I still support Doge and this guy Elon Musk, and he's firing all these veterans and people working in cancer research and actual disease care in our country that actually kills people, maybe we shouldn't support them. Maybe we shouldn't allow them to sanitize who they are in our faces and act like it's all normal. I just think if you're gonna have someone say something finally that makes some sense, at least ask them to not say the things that don't make absolutely any sense. Because as we become, just normalized to these things that maybe other folks weren't paying attention to because we're these wonky nerds within the political sphere and we talk about this every day. There's so many people who aren't, that when they first get introduced to someone who's trying to sanitize their image and their character and who they really are and how they dismiss school shootings from elementary to high school to college shootings that continue to happen on a daily basis, if we get to normalizing those things, those policies become normalized. We have an incompetent government full of a bunch of people who are white nationalists, who do want these types of policies as our norm. So in order to stop these things from being the norm, if we're still fighting that fight, I think it's important to point out who these people are and whether or not they're really being authentic. So yeah, if Marjorie Taylor Greene wants someone to be kind to her and stop being mean, maybe she should stop following policies from someone who literally has his right-hand man talking about suspending habeas corpus, continuing to push ICE agents to go up in people's homes and rip a 16-year-old girl from a little baby's arms and slam them on the ground and then charge them with the crime. I think those things need to be highlighted just as much. We'll highlight someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, I'm against these types of words. I'm willing to hold up this legislation that would criminalize people from protesting.
Yeah, and I think it goes even deeper beyond that, because you can't argue with the substantive merit of what he just said about how if you meet them on one issue and you ignore all their bigotry, you're normalizing them. But I think it goes even deeper than that. If you engage in that type of behavior where you let a complete bigoted person with these crazy extremist beliefs and you let them off the hook for all those beliefs because you have agreement on some other issue, you are then allowing every bigot an out, okay? You are telegraphing to every bigot out there that all they need to do is find some way that they agree with you and they come on the show and you give them the way to launder their image, okay? You are literally doing image laundering for bigots, because believe me, they want to launder their image. They want to soften the edges. This is why Donald Trump was like, oh, of course I'm not going to do Project 2025. I've never even heard of it. And here we are. They're talking about suspending habeas corpus, and they've already gutted a whole bunch of agencies and they've filled the government agencies with loyalists. They're already doing it, okay? You can't allow that, because every single one of them will come in to get their shit laundered, okay? Every one of them will. They're sneaky, they're dishonest. Dude, they're bigots. So of course they're gonna do that. If you give the bigot a get out of jail free card, right? If you give them a bigot pass, every one of them is gonna come up and fucking cash that shit in, bro. You just can't allow it.
What about people in, say, NYU and Columbia? I forget which school it was, where they're not gonna be allowed to take their final exams because they're protesting. How far does the pushback on the protests go? Is it brown people only? Or is it since we have other folks that begin to protest that as well? I just wanna point out that if we're gonna sanitize someone's image or allow them to try to sanitize it, that they should sanitize the whole damn thing, or else they're still filthy.
Yeah, I think that, like, for Cenk Uygur, that could have been the substance of the MTG interaction, of saying, I get it, MTG, that you're trying to say, you agree with me. You agree with this idea of like no war in Iran. And it appears as though we're on the same side. However, Jewish space lasers, Mahmoud Khalil, free speech, open transphobia, no. Okay? No, we are not the same. We cannot talk about sharing this anti-war Iran situation or even partnering up on this particular issue, because you have a whole bunch of issues where you are way off board. You are way beyond board on those other issues. So let's address these other issues. Let's address your bigotry if you want to form a coalition here, because I'm not making a coalition with bigots. I appreciate that you say we have similar feelings on this subject, but frankly, I disagree, because I can only assume that your non-war take on Iran is based in some form of bigotry as well, right? There you go. You know what I'm saying? There you fucking go. I mean, at some point though, guys, because of the 60 votes in the Senate, in order to achieve public policy in America, we do have to work with some people who have differing opinions. Like, it's unavoidable. We do have to meet in the middle with some people. I think you do have to pick and choose who those people are. And I get it. You're going to partner up with some people who have common enemies and shit. But like, it's not going to be perfectly pure. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not. You can't be perfectly pure, but I think there are certain things where you do need to take a sense of purity. Like, I got called a baby killer by people in my own party, right? Because of me not being far enough left on Gaza in the beginning of the thing. But would the Democratic person who called me a baby killer, would I partner up with them? Yes, I would. Okay, even though they're mad about that shit and we went head to head on some issues. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, though, is like completely disingenuous. I mean, you do have to pick and choose, and you can't do it perfectly because, you know, you just can't. I don't think we're ever going to have a situation in America where we don't have to make some type of compromise with people that have slightly different political beliefs. But I think it's like rooting out the extremist beliefs. You know what I'm saying? It is. It is rooting out the extremist beliefs. And we still need to take them to task. You absolutely do. But the funny thing is, though, guys, to make a point about Cenk Uygur, is Cenk Uygur threw Kamala Harris under the bus because of Liz Cheney. But then he sat down with MTG. And that's inconsistent. Because if you're throwing Liz Cheney out with the bathwater and saying you can't meet her halfway, then you sure as can't be making deals with fucking MTG. You know what I mean? What is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, you want to support independent resistance media, you know what to do. Drop that sub, hit the like button, and please share it. And we do love our members, so if you want to become a member, it's another really great way to support. Thanks again for everything, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's go.